Okay, we are recording. It is 12:15, and good afternoon, everyone. I know we're going to have some people kind of hopping on as we get started here, but we said 12:15, and we want to get started because I have a feeling it's going to be a very quick 45 minutes once again. And if you want to tweet out during the Lunchinar, again, it's hashtag scnLunchinar. So definitely tweet out what you're learning, and remember to use the chat feature as well. If you have a question for Jason during this, just have it directed toward me, and I'll get those and we'll throw those questions in as soon as we can. So our guest today is the marketing coordinator for Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District, Jason Wheeler. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time. I know this is a crazy busy time of year, and thanks to everybody for tuning in too. So thanks, we really appreciate your time.
Oh, no, I'm excited to be here. It was right in between senior walks and graduation, so I slid right in here, so it was good.
Perfect. Just for a little bit of background, let everyone know kind of a little bit about your marketing team and really how you got in the position, because technically you've only been in this for a couple years, but you got a lot of history here. Yes.
I tell people that I've been in the district for about 25, 26 years because I was actually a student in the district. I started in third grade and graduated from one of the high schools in CFB. So I went off to college, and I actually wanted to be an accountant like my dad. My dad's a CPA, and that lasted a couple semesters when I started taking the classes and knew I did not want to be a CPA. So I slid into marketing and absolutely fell in love with it. So I graduated Texas A&M with a marketing degree, and I actually started out in sales for 1 year. I sold around the Dallas area, and it was okay. I was doing really well, but I just didn't really feel it. And I was actually, my brother and I are 11 and a half years apart, so I was sitting in his 8th grade football game, and I was the student aide of an assistant principal at the high school, and she saw me in the stands, and she was now the principal of this junior high, and she was like, "Jason Wheeler, what are you doing? I can't believe you're here. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm in sales." She goes, "Do you like it?" "Not really." She goes, "You're going to come work for me." So I guess the rest is history, and I became a CFB employee after taking 4 years off of not being in CFB. So I was a Texas history teacher to start off with, and actually picked up a news broadcasting course. And so that's how I got started in sort of the media in the district, and went on to become a director of one of the academies at the high school called the Academy for Media, Arts, and Technology. It's a film, television, and radio academy, and I learned a lot of the video, self-taught stuff, Final Cut Pro, editing, things like that, and that's how I started working with the PR department, the communications department in CFB. So after 8 years at R.L. Turner, I ended up becoming part of the communications team over here, and we have about 5 people in our department, 6, one's off-site, but she comes in on Mondays. We have a graphic designer that does all our design, print, social media, any digital type ads that we do. We have a webmaster who is also our district photographer. We have a videographer that does all our video stories and all our content that we put up on YouTube, Vimeo, and some of our live stuff. Then we have a community relations coordinator that she goes out and forms business partnerships, and also works with the communities to get the word out, the good word about CFB. And then our executive director of communications oversees us all. And she works very closely with the superintendent to get his message down to us.
How is it working in the district where you grew up?
It was, I find it a lot more easy than probably jumping into a district I'm not familiar with at all. And some of the teachers that I taught with are still here, if you can believe it, even though I have some gray hair. But it made some relationships easier, especially earlier on when a lot of times, not necessarily don't want you in the building, but it's like you're interrupting their day, you're interrupting their flow. But if you know them and you have that relationship, it's a little bit easier to ask for favors and to sort of get stuff done. So I knew a lot of people. I knew a lot of the students because my brother was so much younger. So it really helped out quite a bit. And my mom knows everybody. She was very active in the PTA. So it's usually, "Oh, you're Dan Wheeler's son." I'm like, yeah. So that always helps out quite a bit.
Had to gain your own identity back.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, The big thing we want to concentrate on today. You recently attended the Social Media Marketing World Conference in San Diego, which was back in March. And I think we all know social media is such a driving force in what we do. I know that's huge for us. So first of all, this is not a total educator thing. So what was it that made you want to kind of branch out into sort of the world of social media and marketing and go there?
Sure. I'm really big into social media. That was one of my initiatives when I first came on. I wanted to revamp sort of how we did our social media. But really, I started wanting to get more familiar with just all the platforms, just everything that was out there, the concepts, the trends. So I started reading a blog called Social Media Examiner. It's run by Michael Stelzner, and he's awesome. His content, he has a lot of guest writers. It has some great stuff on there. For anyone that's looking to do anything with social media, I recommend going to that blog first, socialmediaexaminer.com. But he actually runs social media marketing. And I just seeing a lot of the people, the participants, seeing a lot of the guest speakers, I knew it's something I wanted to attend. And I definitely enjoy TSPRA and INSPRA, but I wanted to get a little bit outside my bubble. I felt that, those are mostly educators there, things like that. They're very knowledgeable, but I wanted people that were sort of outside in the corporate world that might be looking at trends a little bit differently than the educational world. So I wanted to check it out. And it was unbelievable experience. It was just so many people, and it was just so much information overload. But the great thing about the conference too is you get all of the videos from every one of the presenters when you go there. So for a whole 18 months, I get all that content to go back and watch and look at maybe some sessions I didn't attend.
Wow, that's awesome. So what was the first thing you came back with and shared with people?
Okay, I walked into the office I came back in on a Monday. I said, all right, we have to start doing live video. That was like the theme of the conference was video. And you hear it a lot, when you're reading a lot of the blogs and reading a lot of the trends and things like that, the magazines. They said, video is going to be the next big marketing thing if it's not already. But they really, really emphasized that with Periscope and then now Facebook Live, the big player, Facebook, is coming into live video. It's probably something everyone wants to check out. So that was the first thing I brought back. I said, all right, we are starting live video. We need to get a game plan going. We need to get this going. We did a little bit with Periscope and a little bit, with Instagram video, which was sort of live, but live recording. But I said, we got to focus on this. And also, we got to break the barrier. We got to go. We're going to start using Snapchat, and everyone gives you that sort of gasp. But
that's what I do.
Exactly. So I said, think about 5, 6, 7 years ago. Everyone said that about Facebook. Our district's never doing Facebook. Yep. We're never getting on there. This is ridiculous. We're blocking this. We're blocking this. We're blocking this. And of course, the kids found the way to always unblock it. So it's sort of a losing battle. But it's a great place to have content. I mean, it's one of the biggest publishing and content places in the world now. So it's its own country almost. They always say. So I think Facebook.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Facebook is huge. So, and I completely remember that. I think our district had started it right before I started here. And so there's always that conversation in the county. Remember when we were so afraid to do that? And, what would you post and how would the kids react? And so is that kind of what you're getting with Snapchat, that maybe it's just, it might be worth the risk, just like Facebook was?
I believe so. I mean, if you look at some of the universities, some of the major universities around the country, if you look at how they're marketing to the high school seniors and juniors, all of their admissions, social media is, I'd say more than 50% is done on Snapchat. I went to Texas A&M University. I sort of researched them a little bit, and their big thing is Snapchat. They have now with Snapchat stories. You don't have to directly send a Snapchat to an individual. You can post stories. They're all putting a bunch of stories of things that are happening on campus, different tours that are available. They're even going around and showing you a dorm room on the inside. This is what to expect when you go in a dorm room. And it just gives the kids content. It gives them sort of an inside glance into what their world's going to be like in a couple of years. And I think that's what the great thing about video is. Everyone's very visual these days. Everyone's used to video. So to be able to do that and to be able to do that on a platform that they're already on, I think it's going to be a big reward if you just want to take the risk. I do know some people are scared, and I do know one thing that we're started dipping our toe in is geo filters. So you need to be on Snapchat, but you don't need to be producing content. You can actually pay, or there's free versions of putting geo filters, which are sort of frames or skins that overlay that students can select when they're maybe in a certain geographical region. Like you can put it around a high school or put it around your football stadium. So the Friday night game, they can do a Snapchat and they can swipe over to their geo filters and can say CFP football, things like that. So it's just a great tool to maybe get your foot wet in Snapchat without actually doing Snapchat. So if you're scared, that might be a good way to get into the whole game of Snapchat.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here, because that's where I think, oh my gosh, if we put our logo out there for kids to put that on their Snapchats, what are they going to do with that? Like, is that the wrong train of thought maybe? Well,
I think every kid knows Photoshop now, or at least has some free program. So I think they could go to your website, get your logo, and do whatever they want to it. So it's going to happen anyway. I know on Snapchat it might be a little bit easier because that's the platform they're on. But I think if you give them great messages and, have that sense of community on Snapchat, I think they're going to embrace it more than, there's always going to be, when there's a snow day on Twitter, you don't want to read some of the stuff that's on, coming at you. So no. It's the same thing, I think, on any platform. You just got to get past that and just take the risk, and, hopefully it will be a reward.
Well, I like your idea too of, and not just a generic geo filter, which of course can be out there too, but the event. If you have maybe the homecoming game, maybe you make a homecoming geo filter, and so that kind of play into some of those more marketing things, right?
Exactly, and I think it's it's all about sort of I like niche marketing, where you can find the people and find the group of individuals and your audience personas that you build, and try to find those filters that might be working for certain events, like you said, like a prom, or we have an event that we have each year celebrating our employees. Having the geo filter at that event. We had a movie night, showed The Princess Bride this time, but we created a geo filter with sort of a Princess Bride theme that was available. So. It's just, finding those events that it might work for and finding the target audience that it might work for. And you can put a bunch of them out there and, try them out and see what happens.
How much does it cost?
It depends. What the cost is based on square footage. I think you have to do at least a certain amount of square footage. And it also depends on the region, the time of day, weekend versus weekday. So, I think around our football stadium, there are free versions, but they're around our football stadium and around some of the side streets where they might park. I think it was like $175 or $180 to do that. So it wasn't that big of an investment. I think just having, a couple or three good out there and the shares of that, things like that, it could, it's an experiment at the beginning. Right. Once it starts working, once people know it's out there, hopefully it will grow bigger.
Yeah, the engagement might be certainly worth that. So let's go back to video real quick. Have you used Facebook Live yet, and how have you?
We have tested it. We have not jumped into it yet. We're waiting for some of the big events starting in the fall. We want to be really prepared and knew what we were doing. I've been on there a little bit just on my personal accounts, but for CFB, we sort of didn't have the plan in place when it got launched, I guess, last month to everybody. So we didn't dive in. I know some districts are, and they're doing great, and the engagement is great. It's something I definitely am stressing with some of our people. We've just been so busy trying to do back to school. We're launching a new website, so it's been taken away from some of the other stuff that we've been doing. So we are definitely going to jump in on that, though. Just any of our events, any of our things. And I think the key is to training our schools, or maybe those one or two people on staff, that they can start doing some Facebook Live, because we know just from our analytics that we look at from our website, a lot of our parents, a lot of our students, they want to see their school. They want to see their community. So when a district does it, it's great, for a big district event, but I think it could even be better at some of these smaller, more intimate, this is my family type thing. I want to see this definitely of, what's going on in the district.
Right. Video wise, you have a videographer, right?
Yes.
How has that maybe changed in the last couple of years? I know we try and do video a lot more, and I think I personally kind of went away from making sure it was, wonderfully produced, and you got to have the, sometimes these short little snippets are completely good. So how have you kind of maybe changed, or how are you using that, and maybe suggestions for people who who still need to get into that a little bit more?
Sure, I see it both ways. The technology has come down in cost so much. There's free programs out there to edit your videos. There's cameras you can get for $150 to $200 that are HD 1080 quality that work just fine, and your smartphone is a lot more sophisticated than 5 years ago. Some of the cameras, so you could definitely do a lot just from there. But I see two ways to do it. We put a lot of content out there that is just from the smartphone, and going and shooting some video and things like that. Usually shorter little segments that we use the smartphone for. It gets a lot of engagement and a lot of play on Facebook. But then also if we really want to push an event or really want to push a story that we've really invested in, then we will stylize it a little bit and edit it. That is just you got to sort of pick your battles. And do you need it really quickly? Do you want to put it up? Or do you want to stylize a little bit and make it more of a showcase, a centerpiece to put on your website, to put on your blog, things like that. But I think that so many people are used to just the raw, sort of like the dirty video, that they don't care anymore. It's not like it has to be a Hollywood production. I guess I'm
they only watch the first 30 seconds anyway. So
exactly, yeah. You better be doing something good. That first 3 seconds, you're going to lose them, and especially on Facebook, because they're basically flipping through on their Facebook and it plays for 3 seconds. And if you're not doing something amazing, you're in trouble.
So back to the conference, you came away saying, okay, we have to do live, Facebook Live, explore chat and Snapchat.
Yes.
What are some of the other takeaways?
Sure. They talked really big on analytics and data. And I think that's an area that maybe that schools or school districts don't look at as much, because maybe they might not have the staff or they don't understand it as well. But I went to several sessions about just the analytics, and always be checking the analytics and see what works. I mean, you got to gauge your platforms, or you got to gauge your campaigns. Nowadays, the data is instantaneous, so you can change a campaign pretty quickly if it's not working. In the past, before we had all these analytics and all these different measurements and these tools and things like that, you could run a campaign for 3, 4, 5 months, and it might not have been working, and you just wasted a lot of money, a lot of resources. I know there's a real famous, the Mean Joe Green Coca-Cola ad. People regard that as one of the best advertisements in the whole entire world. It's always ranked as the best commercial ever. But if you read a book, The End of Marketing as You Know It, Sergio Zyman, he was the chief marketing officer during the time that came out. They pulled that ad and said, after doing the research and getting data, things like that, it was not working. It touched people's hearts, but it was not selling more Coke. Oh. So they pulled it. And nowadays you can look at those analytics day of and say, is this Facebook post doing what it's supposed to be doing? Is this campaign doing what it's supposed to be doing? So analytics are really big. And, you might not want to jump the day of, it's not working, and pull it. You might want to give it some time. But it's definitely a tool that is very useful to, really drill down and see what's happening, see what people are visiting your site, see what people are doing on your site. So that was a big one. There was a lot of sessions over that. And then also using social media for different purposes. And a big one they stressed was customer service. This is where people are, hanging out these days on Facebook, on Twitter. They're going to be complaining. They're going to be asking questions. And you need to be on there. You need to be tracking that to be that source of customer service. You definitely don't want someone else answering it. You definitely don't want your competitor answering it and say, that doesn't happen over here. Why don't you come over and check out, ABC private school or whatever. So that was something else, that just using platforms for not just the putting posts out there, but using it as sort of a customer service tool was a really big one that people were talking about.
Did they introduce you to a new type of way to search for your name so you can catch more of those?
There was a lot of vendors there. Of course, there was a lot of people saying, they could do that. There's so many out there now that's, I know you could probably Google and say, what's the best way to, do that? And there's 100 companies there to come up. Right now, I do it very simple. I use TweetDeck, and I have a bunch of different columns of different hashtags, different keywords, different, companies or different districts that I'm searching after. Also, we use Meltwater. that sort of brings some of the social media captures that they, any keywords that we put in there that sort of sends it to us and gives us a daily reminder of the different news articles, the different social media posts that are out there about our district.
And what's that called again?
Meltwater.
Meltwater, okay.
We're actually a partner with Sprout Social, which is very big into the analytics and the thing like that. So they're partnering with them as well. So we use that to sort of track engagement from people and just user-generated content that might be using our hashtags, our name, our school names, and things like that.
On kind of the same idea, was there a specific way that they suggested you track the analytics, such on Facebook and things like that? I mean, you look at your reach, you look at those were those kind of the same things that we're probably looking at already, or was there something new?
Sure. No, I think it's been said quite a bit here lately, and the past couple of years, that likes are good, but they're not really what you should be gunning for. You should not be caring about, oh, I have 50,000 likes, and this other school district over here has 2,000. Well, if that 2,000 is a lot more engaged, or you're getting more reach out of your posts and things like that, that's what really matters, is that engagement. You can have 50,000 people following you on Twitter, but half of them are probably going to be spam or just hop on and off all the time. And my Twitter fluctuates so much, it's stressful sometimes. But I think that really engagement is the key, and how people are interacting. They said that likes are good, comments are better, shares are what you need to go after. So anytime someone's sharing your content, it's just a vote of confidence, because a lot more people are going to believe their friends than some company or just a school district. So if people are sharing it, that's just a vote of confidence from people that are really trusting your brand or trusting who you are.
I like that. We do have one question. Are there any platforms, say Google Plus, for example, that you're moving away from as you kind of expand into live video and other things?
Yes. Okay. So we tried Google Plus for a while. We still use it to promote some of our blog posts. So I would still click on there and +1 it on the Google Plus, because there are some readers out there and Google likes it. You don't really want to offend Google. You want to, that's how people are going to find you. So they're pretty powerful. So they're always adjusting, just like Facebook, how their search works and how that thing is. So we use Google Plus, but we don't use it as a platform to put our content out there. We'll basically share our content on Google Plus. I have sort of gone away a little bit. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but Periscope, it seems like it's gotten very, very crowded and very just sort of congested. I remember when we first started going on, we'd get, just saying, hey, how's it going? And we'd have 500 people watching us. Now, you're lucky because there are so many people out there doing it that I think Facebook Live might be the way to sort of move towards. Periscope's probably still good, but I think Facebook Live, because so many people are on there, 1 billion people are on there, that they're probably going to win that ball game.
Yeah, well, we kind of saw that with Chewbacca Mom, right?
Exactly. She's right down the street from us. I should have had her.
Is she really?
Yeah, she lives by us. So that was
that's fine. That's been great. Anything surprise you at the conference that you just weren't expecting to hear or see? Or
well, to see, there were actually other educators there. I couldn't believe it. They did a really good thing during their event. I'd sort of suggest this if anyone's having an event. They have breakout tables. So if you didn't want to go to a session during that time, you want to take a break, or in between breaks or during lunch, they had these big pools with like K-12 marketers or college marketers or, medical industry or cigarettes and tobacco industry. So they had different tables where people could interact and meet with each other. And there was a handful of educators from K through 12 that were there, some private schools, some charter, but there was 3 or 4 public school districts there. So it was great to see that people are really starting to embrace and really want to learn and look at the trends and things like that. There's quite a few bit more college marketers and, CMOs there. They're really, they have a little bit bigger budget, and they're probably very stressed because there's so much competition out there with community college, four-year university, the different programs. So there was a bunch of them there. But that was the big surprise that I took away from that, was that there was actually educators there, and they want to learn this stuff. And it's not just, oh, we're in education, we can just send out, a paper newsletter home with the kids in their backpack and it'll be fine. That's all we really have to do, type thing. I think people are starting to embrace that, marketing is an investment, not an expense, and that it needs to be done everywhere.
Right. And social media is probably the first place to put it these days.
Oh yeah, it's probably the easiest. I mean, I think
the
one thing that I love is that people might hate me for this, to suggest that your district do this, but paid social media. I mean, it's very cheap and you can really, really target an audience down to zip codes, down to what they like, different, demographics. It's unbelievable what you can do now. And, we can't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a television ad, but we can go on Facebook and put a video and pay just $10 to get 5,000 people to watch it. I mean, that's a pretty big deal to be able to get a market that you want to broadcast to, and their interest and their, it follows right along with your personas, and you can just hit them right on the head with, a promotion or content or whatever.
Yeah. And you kind of bring that up a little. I want to bring up your blog.
Okay.
You do a marketing blog, and let me see if I can share my screen here. I need to find it.
Socialmediaschoolhouse.com.
Yes. I'm looking for my desktop, which I don't see. Okay. Is it sharing my screen now?
Yes, it looks like, yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
So there you go. There is your social media schoolhouse. Talk about this blog. And I was reading through a ton of articles the other day, simply just, and you have great links and great how-tos. How did this get started?
This is really to help me as a learning platform when I started the job here in CFB. So this was basically started 2 years ago. And this was me sort of teaching myself the trends and the trick tips and the techniques that I would use when I started the job. And then when I started, I jumped right into the job, I started looking at what we were doing. I was like, this could benefit other people. This could do, this could really be something that could benefit a lot of people. So I always love writing. I was in journalism in high school. I've written some movie scripts. So I just enjoy writing. I put it out there. I might not have the best grammar in the world, but I was sort of in the generation of creativity. So I just enjoy doing it and, helping people. And also just, it helps me too, because anytime I write something down, I can really think of maybe taking it to the next level, just thinking other things to do. About just social media, content marketing, things like that. So it just really helped me as a tool as well. And we started one in our district too, called schoolahoop.com. And it's a parenting blog, and it gives parenting advice from K through 12 of different things. Like one we posted yesterday was 3 tips to help your student excel in writing. So it's just something that I think content marketing is huge. It's going to remain huge. And anytime you can help someone, they're going to trust you and they're going to think of you as the expert. And maybe next time they think about joining our school district or maybe asking me to be on a podcast or on a webinar or do a public speaking somewhere, that they're going to think of me or they're going to think of our district. And, we'll be the resource they're going to go to.
Yeah. How recent is that? And do you guys share the writing within your office, or do you have other people contribute to that?
The great thing about it is I went to our superintendents and I said, all right, if we're going to do this correctly, I am not going to be able to write every story. I'm not going to be able to write every post. So we went out to the experts. What better person to write a parenting or educational blog for students than our teachers? So we have teachers, administrators, and counselors. They submit articles. I'm sort of the publisher, proofreader, and person that does some of the visuals and sort of redoes the headlines and things like that to make it more SEO compliant. But they really are the ones that are writing it. They're in the classrooms. They're sort of, in the trenches doing what they're doing, and they're knowing what the parents are asking. They're knowing what the students need. And so that's where the content comes from. So we post it on a weekly basis. I have a lot of content stored away, and I just sort of pick an article that might relate to something that we're trying to promote this week, or just something that might fall in line with STAR testing or exams, or one of our most popular posts was how to have a $50 staycation in Dallas. And so gave them tips of what swimming pools, what water parks, what museums, things like that. And that worked really well. It got a lot of engagement, and it drove people to our website, our official CFB website. So it just helps us interact and just, be a voice for the parents that, questions that they're asking, that we're putting them in written form.
Right. Do you guys use tweet chats?
We some of our departments do. I, of course, in the K-12 PR chat, I do that, the biweekly one that I participate in that. I don't have one of my own, but our HR department does. They have one. Some of our that's our technology specialists. They have Twitter chats to sort of help out teachers and give some advice. They just had one on Google Docs and Google platform, so they're implementing that. I think that's a great resource just to meet people and just to engage and just ask questions. I found that very useful those Tuesday nights when, I jot down little ideas that other districts are doing. It's very powerful.
Yeah. Back to the conference. You kind of talked about the different ways that people got to meet each other. Any suggestions? If we're putting on different. I like the different tables that you're able to do. But wasn't there an activity or a night on an aircraft carrier or something? There's thousands of people.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about that experience a little bit, and I don't know if you knew anybody even going there, but kind of how you start to network.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was their biggest push. It wasn't even necessarily the content that was being put out there. Of course, that was important. But they said from the very beginning, this is for you to network. This is for you to learn from other people that are at the conference, not necessarily the speakers, but the people that are there. So many people, these people out here have great ideas. So they made every effort to have people get to know people. People went with their colleagues. I went alone. But yeah, they had that first night on the aircraft carrier, the Midway. It was unbelievable. They had flight simulators. They had a social media bingo where you went around and tried to learn people's stuff about people. Then the next night they had another party that was sort of the same thing, just sort of a karaoke type, getting to know people even more when you sing a Frank Sinatra song with them. It was definitely, that's what their whole purpose was. They had a whole staff there to engage people and to have them engage with the other participants. So that was their big push, was engagement. Just like social media, you need to get the engagement. That's what they wanted to do at their conference.
Right. Huh, that's interesting. And how many people were there? It's like 3,000 people or something, isn't it?
3,000. I think there was about 150 to 200 speakers. The good thing about it is I flew in a day early, but they were doing some pre-sessions, and those were all free. They were a little bit more in-depth. So I went on to a great one on blogging. There was another one on some Facebook Live stuff, but it was unbelievable the amount of people were there, but just the amount of sessions at one time. It didn't feel crowded. It didn't really feel, but I met a lot of people. Met a lot of people in education. I met a lot of people just at different companies, like people that work for LinkedIn, that people that work for Facebook, or that were their own entrepreneurs. So it was really neat. And then, of course, one of the highlights was Gary Vaynerchuk was there. He's a little bit crazy. He's a little bit passionate about what he does. He's probably not family friendly. Don't search him on YouTube when you go to work. But he likes to use certain words. But he was just very passionate about all this stuff, and he's very ahead of the ball game. So just to be able to go to that stuff and just to interact after those sessions with people sitting next to you, and just to learn, are you doing this? Are you doing that? How did that work? I think it's just great. I think that should be at every conference, is time dedicated to just be talking with people at the conference.
Well, and it's nice that they formulate ways to get you to talk to, because not everybody's going to feel comfortable, at that. And so that's kind of always a tough thing when you're putting on a giant event or going to a giant event. A lot of people might be going to NSPRA this summer and not know anybody there. So
exactly. And they even had sessions, how to break the ice at social marketing world, or how to say hello to. They had 30-minute to an hour sessions of how an introvert could excel at social media marketing world. So it was pretty neat.
That's pretty cool. In your blog bio, you talk about 3 different trends. One of them, competition continuing to grow. How have you seen that, and kind of what are your thoughts on, that aspect as we kind of all move forward?
I don't know about all the other people that are on the webinar, but we have seen competition in the last just in the last 2 or 1 year, explode. Definitely with charter schools, definitely with private schools, and then homeschooling. And then there's even online institutes now for K through 12 that are starting to pop up a little bit. And we've seen a lot of competition from the charter schools. There's basically a charter school on every corner. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but just within our district, we counted like 15, 16. There's one right across from one of our high schools. So there is competition out there. I mean, people have choice these days. I mean, it's not, I mean, I know one of the enemies. My wife is a private school teacher. So I get some insight from her, but just the things that they are doing marketing wise and what they're doing promotion and the money they invest. I mean, if public schools don't start doing that, then we're in some serious trouble, because they're treating it as a corporation, and they're treating it as, I'm not necessarily saying that public schools should become corporations or be run that way, but they're definitely investing in a lot of money in marketing and publicity and public relations. I mean, it's becoming a game. I mean, there's a lot of competition out there. And I think a lot of people at the very beginning, the grass is always greener somewhere else. And so there's a lot of hopping, going back and forth, trying out, and they usually come back. But it's just amazing that how many are just out there, and that, we really have to sort of figure out, like, how are we going to, compete against this one? How are we going to compete out of this one? What are the audiences that are going over to this one? It's just all different. They, classical academies where, their English is Shakespearean European history or something. And then you have some that are the new tech STEM that, it's all about engineering pathways and things like that. So we're really trying to, make a difference and show how we're different. We have a lot of academies in our high school. We actually have 6. We have an early college where they can get an associate's degree and a diploma at the same time. We have a STEM academy. We have that AMAT academy that I was a part of, biomed, business, law academy. So we have a dual language academy for elementary school where they learn Spanish and English at the same time. So it's just, there's some things out there that districts are going to have to start doing. They're going to have to start differentiating, and they're going to have to tell people that they're differentiating. So
right,
the word out.
And that content, let them see it, let them
exactly,
show them what's there, what makes you different. Exactly. There's a lot of competition for us in Michigan. I know we have people on from all over the U.S. right now. Schools of choice. Your kids can literally go anywhere between public schools, let alone the charter schools and the private schools. So
yeah, I mean, some of our public schools have opened up. Basically, if you live in Texas, you can go to their public schools. So it's a real challenge. I mean, it's getting very, very competitive.
Yep. The other thing was too, parents wanting help solving their problems and concerns. Is that where that blog came about?
Yes. That School Hoop was basically based on that. We know that preschool parents, this is a big market for us because we want them to join our district. They don't know what's going on. How do I prepare my student for kindergarten? I mean, my wife and I have been in education for 15 years, and we were worried when we have kids that are about to start kindergarten. We're like, what do we do? Do they need to be reading? Do they need to be doing this? How many math problems do they need to do at night? Things like that. So it can become scary. And I think a lot of people are scared to ask sometimes because they don't want to be embarrassed, or they don't. But, we wanted to put that resource out there to help. And, we wanted to be the people out there that were the trusted experts. And we wanted to show that when you come to CFB, you're going to be coming to a district that is top notch, and that we have people that care, people that are doing the right things. And we have your back, and, we're going to help you out every step of the way. And that could be from 0-year-old kid all the way up to graduating. After they've graduated our school district, we still want to help them. And that's sort of how our blog came about. Just parenting's hard. It's tiring, I can tell you that. So, especially when you have a redheaded girl, but there's people need help. So that's what we're trying to do.
Right. And where can we find that blog? Like if we go to your Facebook page or Twitter feed or something along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, if you facebook.com/CFBISD, one of our newest posts is a post for our blog. You can go to it easily that way. Or the direct way is schoolahoop.com. So schoolahoop.com. So that's to get you directly there to the blog. Also, at CFB ISD on Twitter. We just posted some recent posts from our blog, so you can get to it there. So, and I'm always reposting it. My Twitter is at WheelerCFB. So if people want to look on there and friend me or whatever, look at some of my content, they're more than happy to do that. And it links to School of Hoop and things like that. So it's done really well. We were surprised how quickly it caught on and how fast people are sharing the articles and how people are just interacting with the blog and asking more questions, which is helping us build more content.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to, excuse me, to build it and find out what parents are looking for.
Sure.
I just lost my train of thought for real quick. Sorry about that. We do have one question on a meltwater related question. If there's a crisis, like a car accident, robbery, or something that's occurring near one of the schools and the kids are tweeting about it, is that something that will notify you so you can kind of see that interaction?
It does, but we always have a second and third line of defense. So Meltwater will tell us any articles that have mentioned our names or mentioned, or social media posts that have mentioned our name. It can be hit or miss sometimes. You never know what's going to happen with their, equations and things like that. So we're always monitoring TweetDeck to see our different channels and see what people are doing. And then I always, before school starts, before my job starts during the day, I come into the office early and I look at all the different social media feeds, our different accounts. I look on Facebook to make sure there's not any messages overnight. I look at the different hashtags that people might be using. I look at high school keywords, elementary school. So pretty much you can really gather a lot of information. I have a lot of columns on my TweetDeck. So I just looked and nothing was said overnight or nothing happened at one of the schools or anything like that. And we have a really strong relationship with our police department in all the cities that we represent. And Carrollton Police Department has a Twitter feed that they put up to the second stuff. And their PO usually calls up pretty quickly if there's anything happening just any time of the night. So we really have a lot of lines of defense to really keep us up to date of what's going on. But yeah, kids post on Twitter all the time and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. So it can become a challenge. It just takes a lot of time and just a lot of, figuring out what to do and, how to do it.
Right. And when to, do something about it and when not to.
Exactly. A lot of times they're just trying to be funny. I mean, you want to take every threat seriously, but if they, you just got to sort of weigh and pick your battles, I guess, too. You don't want to jump to something.
Exactly.
Because then you look bad on social media, too, when you're trying to, take a deep breath and sort of, call the channels and then, approach it how you need to approach it.
Right. So something funny I noticed today, until Hootsuite added Instagram, on the free version. I didn't use it a ton. So this year, that was one of my big goals. I'm like, I've got to get there, especially when you consider in middle school, that's what they're on. Yes. Tweeted out something. It was our senior's last day yesterday. I put it on both Twitter and Instagram, and the Instagram got more hits than Twitter did, even though you're talking about seniors in high school. So really, is that probably the better trend, is if you want to hit your kids?
We see Instagram very, very popular. If you search some of our hashtags, like one of our high schools is called Creekview, hashtag Creekview, there's 7,000 things that come up with that hashtag. I mean, people are on there. And I think Twitter is so open and so public that I think it's becoming somewhere where they know they're going to get dinged on some of these, things that we're looking for and things like that. So they've jumped to Instagram. And of course, on Instagram, you see a lot of these Snapchat filters with the dog tongues and the funny faces that you can do, things like that. So they're on Snapchat and taking their pictures from Snapchat and posting them on Instagram. So that's a new thing too. So they're sort of double dipping and, which is I don't know how creative that is, guys, but it definitely they're definitely on Snapchat, I know, and they're definitely on Instagram. It gives us a lot of engagement depending on what type of post we put on there. We try to be a little bit more funny. We try to gear it a little bit more towards the high schools. Like I did one about we have star testing in Texas, so I did a Star Wars theme thing, and I got a lot of engagement on Instagram. And we'll do funny posts of like my kid was crying about something, so I took a picture of her and free model, I guess, but and I said, "Oh, back to school time! All your kids get ready." So we sort of have a little fun. There's nothing wrong with using humor on social media. You don't have to be serious all the time, even if you're a school district.
Right. Okay, we have about 2 minutes left. Real quickly, what are you looking forward to most in your summer project? What's up next? What's the most exciting for you?
Okay, we are launching a website that's going to be ready by the new school year, and we are doing it totally in-house. So we decided, nothing against the big platforms, things like that, but a lot of people are on those platforms, so we didn't want it to look cookie cutter. Our whole approach was we want people to be able to find things quickly and be able to find things quickly using their mobile device. So we took it from our approach, our website, we're building it up basically as a mobile platform, but it has to look good on desktop too. So when we launch it, it's going to be a completely different experience. We're going to have things like trending, our news stories, our big topics. We're going to have big, huge buttons. We're going to have, a lot of color. We're going to have a lot of different categories where it's going to be more of a scrolling website. And once they dig down into those second layers, they're going to have more content. So our whole thing was we want them to get somewhere within 3 clicks or less. So if they're searching for their transcripts, they need to get to transcripts in 3 clicks or less. We don't want to have a bunch of drop-down menus where you have to slide over and, move your cursor over, things like that, especially on mobile. So that's our big, huge project for the summer. We're going to continue to develop our content marketing. We really want to make a push for that. We want to start getting more niche-y about our content marketing and starting some different blogs and some different pages of content for different disciplines and different things that we have in our district. So that's going to be a big initiative. And then also just the live video and the video. We really want to build that up. So those are our 3 big things for the summer. And we'll always be tweeting and always be Facebook and always be Instagramming and hopefully Snapchatting during the summer. So you don't want to give up during the summer. If you give up at all, you're going to lose your audience.
Right.
Always be tweeting, always be Facebooking.
Right. Well, awesome. Well, Jason Wheeler, thank you so much for joining us. A lot of great insight, and I love the future projects. So we know we can find examples of those when you launch the website, and we'll follow you on Twitter. Again, to everybody, I highly suggest reading Jason's blog as well. Very helpful material, great links, and just insight. I, for one, learned a lot just from watching other people and how it's done. So again, Jason, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Holly. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend.
All right. Bye, everybody.